Hey, 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 it's another episode of Soul Care Conversations with Bria. And we have an incredible guest by the name of Sumaiya, who is a woman that is not only so worthy of being a part of this Her Story series. She is a woman that is walking in her purpose powerfully and making history every single day. She's one of the first woman, the first Bangladeshi woman to be a pro wellness champion. And she's the NPC 2003 overall winner. And I may be botching this up a little bit, but she has so many incredible accolades from over years and years and years of experience in wellness and bodybuilding. And I'm so excited today to have her here to talk with us about some really important topics and kind of get an opportunity to kind of like pick her brain a little bit. This is a amazing expert in the field of wellness, in the field of bodybuilding, and she has so many nuggets of wisdom. So without further ado, thank you so much for joining us, Sumaiya.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited. So basically, I kind of botched up a couple of things when I gave you an introduction, but I am just so giddy and excited. Could you give us a brief introduction on um, who you are as a pro bodybuilder and kind of a leader in the world of like wellness? Just kind of give us like a brief introduction. There's so many things that could be said about you, but just starting off with that intro.
So, I'm Sumaiya Sarwar. I'm an IVB Wellness Pro Bodybuilder. I received my pro card and I won my whole bodybuilding division in December of 2023. I competed in NPC Nationals Championship in Irving, Texas. And I am the first ever Bangladeshi female to win this title in the world at the moment. I'm hoping more women are inspired and they follow my lead. And I have been helping women achieve their health and fitness goals since 2016, on and off. And nowadays, I also started helping women with the posing for the division in bodybuilding that I compete in. I also have some online programs for people who are just like beginning and or they can come and meet me in Queens, New York, and I help them train at the gym. So that's kind of where I'm at right now.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. So today's topic, something that really, when I look at your brand and I look at your journey, like first of all, we've been friends for a very long time. And you're one of those women, like when I thought about Her Story Month this year, I was like, I really want to talk to women who I have seen just their transformation, their growth, and how their growth and their evolution has really inspired me. And when I look at your story, the very first word that comes to my mind, the three first words that come to my mind is resilience, reinvention, and redefining. And I feel like that was a topic that kept coming through my mind is just like redefining your life, having resilience to redefine and reinvent. Like, and for me, my thought process about reinvention is not like, oh, I'm changing who I am in this very weird kind of like perspective, but like I'm finding who I really am after taking off so many layers of things that I was not. So, kind of getting into your story and watching you as someone who is not a wellness expert, who is not a bodybuilder, but I want to get into this world. Um, I have so many questions, but the first question I want to ask you is what inspired you? You have over a decade of experience in this field. And just me watching you grow. Like literally, I watched you when you was just posting videos as what you considered yourself to be a beginner, and I was like, wow, she her form, everything is amazing. And for someone who is not even in that kind of like subculture or in that kind of world, I'm still so fascinated, and I love watching your podcast and I love watching your YouTube videos. But one thing that comes to my mind, the first question is, what inspired you to kind of start this journey?
Honestly, I think I didn't even choose fitness when I was young. It kind of fell onto my lap, if I say, because I was obese growing up. And when I was 6 years old, my mom is the one who introduced me to working out. She led by example. So we would go outside, we would do body weight exercises, we would take walks, do jump ropes, and things like that. And that's kind of where my journey began. And no matter what I have gone through my life over the years, fitness always grounded me. And when I felt like I had no control over my life, fitness gave me a sense of some control, some purpose. And that's how I would say it all kind of began.
Love that, love that, love that. So, what do you think was one of your greatest source of like motivation to keep going when things kind of got like difficult? And what do you feel like are some of your greatest sources of like motivation and inspiration? Like, I know starting from a child, and I would have thought in a million years that you were ever like obese or overweight, anything like that. And I feel like we kind of live in this culture where it's so much pressure on women to be perfect, and kind of fit. We live in this society where it's hard to get away from a selfie, a picture, or scroll down your timeline and so for me, always seen you as little petite Sumaya, not little Sumaya. You are, powerful, you what they call a big dog now, always been, but you're powerful. When I see you lifting 400, like you can lift the rock. Okay? But like, transitioning from childhood to now womanhood, and now you're at this stage where what inspired you to go from like beginner level
Mhm.
to now like you are pro level, you're a professional heavyweight in this world of bodybuilding and wellness. And I see how people receive you and they look up to you now because we authentically saw your transformation. So I feel like, what were some of your sources of like inspiration to keep going and to just kind of get into this sector of fitness?
I think my main thing has always been able to find myself. I felt so lost under the projection of other people, whether it be romantic relationship or parents or friends or society. So in 2016 is when I started to take bodybuilding seriously. And I went into that wanting to feel strong, wanting to feel like I can protect myself. And um, I am a survivor of sexual abuse. So I wanted
Mhm.
to kind of like put on an armor. And for me, that was muscle. For me, that was being able to lift heavy. And over the years, it kind of helped me blossom into who I am. And I learned to be able to tap into my feminine energy and my masculine energy,
I
just kind
love
of like
that.
yin and yang as needed
That
without feeling like it has to be one or the other.
I love that. And we live in a society, especially as women, it's like you're either encouraged to be one side of it or not. And we all have masculine and feminine energy. I forget what it's called, but like you said, yin and yang. But like finding the balance between both is so important, not only for wellness, but for mental health. You know, there is a feminine and masculine energy we have to find balance with it. And once we find balance with it, we kind of feel a sense of like, it's like we recenter ourselves and
Mhm.
come to a place of greater self acceptance. And we kind of live in a society where women are taught to be this one side of the spectrum. and acknowledging how powerful you are as a woman can sometimes feel like, oh, it's intimidating to some people. It
Mm,
can be intimidating to certain like superficial structures that we as women sometimes feel like we have to conform to. Like oftentimes we feel like, okay, I have to be this certain type of way.
mm,
And when you first started off, bodybuilding wasn't as popular as it is now. So now you see, from my spectrum,
mhm,
like maybe for some other people they it may not be the case, but for me, seems like when you first started off bodybuilding, it was a more niche type of kind of like
yeah.
thing. But now I can scroll my timeline in no limit of time and see that this is a growing sector where women are redefining what it means to be a woman. And
Mm,
to take on fitness is not just, oh, I'm going in my yoga pants and do Pilates, which is cute too, but it's also like, I'm powerful and I can lift these weights probably better than the average man. I may be like way smaller than this big 6 foot, 6'5" man, but I'm lifting more weights than him because it's a mental thing. It's about mental agility just as much as it is about physical, strength. So, being an expert in your field, breaking glass ceilings, what do you think is one of the greatest challenges you had to overcome on your journey of bodybuilding?
honestly speaking, you know, there's always challenges popping up, right? Like you think you mastered something and then something else shows up. For me, it was even till this day, I think most women struggle with that is body image and
Mm-hmm.
how it goes hands in hands with anxiety.
Yep.
So that's something. I have good days, I have bad days, but I have made a lot of progress over the years. And I think if it wasn't for fitness, I would have not been able to do that. And it's
Okay.
it's taught me to kind of, like you said before, shedding the layers. That was a
Yeah.
challenge. Even from like friends that have known me a long time, projecting what I should be doing, how I should be living my life. Parents still tend to do that sometimes. My partner, so it's like how to set the boundary and how to kind of protect yourself while
Right.
you're still dealing with these kind of internal battles, because that I don't think that fully ever goes away, especially
Right.
uh, women.
Yeah,
Yeah.
especially, and I think when I watch your content and I see how you're in the zone, and it's like, this is my world. And I'm creating, not like you said, an armor. Like you went through these experiences that were very traumatic, and you use that as fuel to build yourself up. You use your journey of overcoming these traumas. And, I feel like when we go through trauma, we sometimes take on an identity that we, we, what's the word I'm looking for, that we kind of created as a way to survive from dealing with that trauma or trying to come to terms with that trauma. And sometimes it can be very unhealthy. Like for me, for example, I live my life being a people pleaser because of a lot of the childhood traumas that I had to deal with, that I had to face, of always dealing with like verbal abuse or dealing with certain things that kind of made me feel inferior. So I took on a personality where I had an inferiority complex and I was a people pleaser. And then I found a healthy way to find my voice. I found different ways to transmute that pain into something powerful. And that's what you have done, is that you transmuted that pain um to something powerful. And you have such a powerful story. you know um I feel as though we as women have to keep in mind that no matter what we do in life, someone's going to try to keep us in a box. No matter what. And sometimes it's not even from a malicious intent. We just live in a society that has so many different, unspoken rules. And I feel like what you're doing as a bodybuilder, you are really, redefining what it means to be a woman in fitness, redefining what it means to own who you are. Because I know, For me, I'm not, super petite. I have my own, one of my biggest, self consciousness about even getting into the world of bodybuilding is like, oh my God, I always had an athletic body. I got my dad's body, and it's so annoying because it's like, what advice would you give to someone that's like, okay, I'm already kind of like an athletic build, but also too, I still need to, it's so much. I'm on this journey on postpartum. I'm trying to find the right fitness for me. And we did our consultation. Please sign up with Sumaiya and get your consultation and get into her group because she got so much nuggets of wisdom. But for a woman who is kind of like on the fence about bodybuilding, and it's not to convince them, but for someone who already has a peak interest, what would you give them kind of like advice as part of the key things to keep in mind about the benefits of bodybuilding?
I would say, I know, even though the physical appearance is what most people want, think about the mental side of things.
Right.
I got hooked into it because it made me feel like a better person, you know, because I always struggled with mental health issues, whether it was depression, feeling anxious, and then procrastinating, and then going into the whole cycle of why I didn't get
Mhm.
it done. So,
Right.
little by little, bodybuilding or fitness in general kind of taught me to keep the promises I make to myself. In turn, I started to
Mhm.
feel like, you know what, I can do this. So, my self belief and my self esteem started to increase. And before you know it, I just became a whole different person in some way, but then that version of me that I am now always existed. It just, I didn't trust myself enough to uncover that. So if you're looking to get into fitness or bodybuilding, I would say start small, even if that's going for a walk, or getting on a treadmill, or maybe be like, you know what, today I'm going to drink a little bit more water. Whatever small thing it might be, take that step. And once you keep that promise to yourself, add a little bit more the next week, because it takes 21 days to build a new habit. And in that time, when you keep doing it repeatedly, you're also building your muscle of discipline, of consistency, and then your mindset, your view of yourself, all that will change. And with that, you're going to be on the right track. So I'll say, look at that. Don't look at like, okay, 4 weeks, I can drop 10 pounds, or I go to the gym 5 days a week and do 30 minutes of Stairmaster. All those aggressive things, people are just giving you a snippet of where they're at. They're not showing you where
Right.
it
Right.
takes time to build that. So I always recommend that you start small and build a habit that's going to stick long term, rather than doing like a crash diet or 0 to 100 and dropping the weight and not being able to keep it off.
Yeah, it's
Or,
about consistency.
or you leave feeling like, oh, this is too hard. This is not for me.
Right. I love that. That's excellent advice. You literally have created your own lane while also breaking glass ceilings. I can only imagine how much growth and how much growing pains that went into making history. That's not a small deal to be the first IFBB Wellness Pro Bodybuilder as a Bangladeshi woman. That's incredible. And what I am also learning from this conversation is that if you want to be into something for a superficial reason, just for the accolades, cool. You're going to get it quick and you're going to lose it quick. But
Mhm.
you have had longevity in this world because you have had a stronger purpose behind it and a deeper intention behind what you're doing. And it's so powerful to kind of just see how you have just completely like you have broken glass ceilings that sometimes takes people 20, 30 years to do, but you literally, I look at you and I'm like, wow, this woman is powerful. She
Mhm.
knows she is. She's owning who she is, and she has such a real strong purpose behind it. And how you just said at the beginning, like overcoming that trauma and using that trauma as fuel, and it's so inspiring. And thinking of that, what are some women that inspire you in history? Like, what are like, you could say three women in history because you're making history and you're making her story every single day, because every day you're waking up and you're saying, I'm going to take it a next step and a next step and a next step. You're never getting complacent. What are three women in history that inspire you the most and why?
To be honest, I don't have three. um, Reason being, like, I see good qualities in many women, right? So
Right. I love that.
it's hard for me to just pick one, two, three, and put them in a pedestal. I don't do that.
I totally get what you mean. I agree with that.
But if I was to say some qualities from other women that I would like to harness myself, I would say, I know my mom is not a historical woman, but I would say my mom, I have seen her go through a lot of different things, and our relationship hasn't been the best. But I always admired her ability to maintain her childlike curiosity and just like enjoying the little things in life. It could be a nice sunny day and she would be happy because it's blue sky, you know. And from a very young age, she taught me to appreciate those small things in life. And I think that is what till this day allows me to look at the bright side when things are not the best in my life. So she is the first one, I guess. And the second person would be Maya Angelou. I just love her story. I really admire how far she went in her life, and her poetry is just out of this world. It's amazing. And the third person would be, I think, Mother Teresa. She was just so giving, you know, and I don't have a lot in my life, but I always like to think about what can I do to improve this person's life? How can I help them?
Mm-hmm.
And that's, I think that's what is helping me build the brand and everything that I'm building, because I'm not looking at it thinking about how much money I'm getting out of it or who's paying me what. I am looking at each individual as individuals, as humans, you know,
I
and
love that.
to them, okay, whether this person is a mother or whether this person is a college student, I want to help them. So years later, when I'm not in their life, they look at those experiences and the interactions fondly, and they take something positive out of it.
Beautiful, beautiful. I love that. I love Maya Angelou. I love Mother Teresa. Shout out to mom because it's nothing like the women that came before us. And learning from their stories, because what you and I are doing, we are the torch has been passed to us, and we're taking the torch and we're running with it, and we have to say, what am I going to do with this torch that's been passed on to me from my mother or my grandmother or my aunts? These are women who are everyday unsung heroes, and that's why Women's Her Story Month is so important to me, because it's like a lot of our stories go unnoticed, go untold. Like I was saying in one episode, my grandmother, powerful woman, strong woman, but her story is not told enough and is not understood enough. And I use her story as my motivation. I use before she passed away, you know, how she passed away and how I feel like her life, it was so many things that was unfulfilled because she lived for everyone else. So one thing that I do recognize from watching your journey is there's a boundary that we set. There's a thin line between. Right. There's a line between being there for others, but also being there for ourselves. And I feel like that's what self care is kind of about. It's like a dance between us being there for others, but also pushing ourselves. What are some things that you think is important for quality self care and quality soul care? Like three key things. I keep saying the number three. I don't know what's it with me with three these days, but some key things that you keep in mind about, finding that balance between, self care, soul care, and also setting that boundaries about giving too much of yourself
Mhm.
and then not giving too much of yourself.
So I think it's going to obviously vary person to person, right? Based on where we are in our individual journey. For me, self care, one thing I learned over the years is that I really value my alone time. And
Me too.
time is yeah, being out in the nature, I'm just the most happiest. And as for boundaries, girl, don't even get me started on that. I've probably been the villain in many people's stories for setting those boundaries, but I truly believe it was necessary. If I hadn't done it over the years, I probably wouldn't have been able to cultivate this version of myself and like pour into myself, because when you're distracted and your energy is spread thin, no matter how talented you are, you're not able to recharge, you're not able to pour into yourself, and you may never actually unleash your best potential that, call it God, call it universe, has put in yourself. So over the years I have had to walk away from family members, from friendships, and or just distanced myself. And honestly, I don't regret it. And this last year, when I did my shows and ultimately went and won my pro card, is when I had to set the most boundaries with my partner. Because I'm the kind of woman, when I'm in a relationship, I I guess built my whole life around that person, and I go
Same
about.
here.
Yeah, but with bodybuilding and not having energy and not being able to do certain things, like I had to speak up and set boundaries. Unfortunately, when you're with somebody for almost 10 years and they're used to you being a certain way and you start to flip
Mhm.
a switch and then things just hit the fan.
Trust me, I can relate. 1000% I can relate to that. We as women, we're so used to being everything for everyone, especially women who are empaths. Like, you're an empathic person, you can feel people's energy. That's why people connect to you so much and connect to your content so much. Because sometimes when I scroll down my timeline and I see that you popped up and I'm reading whatever antidote of wisdom you have underneath your post, I'm like, oh my goodness, she is reading my life right now. It's exactly what I needed to hear at this moment, to kind of help me kind of like process whatever I'm dealing with. So just finding that balance is hard, but like like you said, you cannot elevate unless you create, you make time for you. And it's not selfish to do that. Women, we are conditioned to feel as though we have to basically um not set boundaries with people. And when we set boundaries, we're going to be a villain to somebody because somebody benefited from us not having those boundaries up. And no matter what, you can never please everybody. There's always going to be somebody who's going to be upset with you growing and you elevating, because sometimes growth scares certain people.
Mhm.
Certain people see your growth. Like me, as someone who's been knowing you, you're one of the first close friends that I've had since I moved to New York City. I see you grow and I see you elevate and I feel you grow in fitness and wellness. Like, yeah, we are aligned in certain areas, but in this area, you know, I am not where I want to be health and fitness wise, but I'm not looking at your growth like, oh my God, who she thinks she is. I'm
Mhm.
looking at your growth like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm inspired. And, some people do not have that type of mindset, and it's not even from a malicious place. They're kind of stuck somewhere.
Yeah.
And sometimes your growth, someone just seeing you grow and elevate, it kind of puts up a mirror to
Mhm.
them about areas in their life where they're stagnant in. So I absolutely love kind of like that, you being transparent about that. And sorry to interject, but yeah, that really sparked something for me.
No,
Cause
I mean, I think it can also be what previous generation have taught us, and we are not
yeah.
following that. So I'm recently recognizing my mothers, my aunts, my grandmothers, the way they lived their life, and I'm like, I don't want to live that way.
Right. Same.
I want to do things differently. And
Right.
it doesn't make me a bad person.
Mm-mm.
So it's like everyone is like telling me, okay, you're a pro bodybuilder, you're an inspiration, all that. But winning that show caused me to set boundaries, and I actually stepped away from my relationship and I moved in with my parents, and I had to speak to my partner. And because when I was setting those boundaries, he was looking at it like me being selfish, because we come from families where our mothers, our grandmothers bend over backward for everybody,
Mm-hmm.
how tired they are, how exhausted they are. I didn't do that. I'm like, I need my 8 hours of sleep. I,
Right. Yeah.
I need to do this and that. And that wasn't received the same way.
I've
So,
been through that in so many different scenarios where advocating for myself, that person is, especially women of color, regardless to, whether it's black woman, Bangladeshi woman, you being an Asian woman, things different, me being, we come from cultures where women don't know what boundaries really are, and men have functioned in a way where they don't think that women have certain boundaries, especially when it comes to the dependency. That's why they kind of say that, men live longer when they're married and women live shorter, because that's literally, I don't care what anyone says, that's like our child, a little bit, not necessarily, not romantically, but we are such a big play a big role collectively as women. It's so normalized for us to be that way, but that's a really powerful decision to advocate for yourself and say, you know what, I'm unapologetic about this.
and I think that's what makes me a villain in some of my friends or family members' stories, because I try to talk to them nice and kindly. I explain, but I do have a limit. And
Right.
when that is not respected, I leave. So now I'm doing therapy. I don't think it's anything to be ashamed of. Um,
Right.
Couples therapy and all that, because I'm like, I've seen the dynamic in the relationship between my parents and most of the people who are in relationship around me. And I'm like, no, things are have to be different. And sometimes setting a boundary or self-care or even soul care, it it challenges us to um, get out of our comfort zone, and that's kind of like where I'm at this moment. Even though like my career and everything else is amazing, I am in my 30s, so I'm looking at like the family aspect, the relationship aspect, and I am very becoming very self-aware about how things were in previous generation, how things are with me, and taking accountability. And sometimes self-care is that taking accountability. Go to therapy, cry
Yes.
out, journal,
Absolutely.
whatever is necessary, because you don't want to pass that on to the future generation.
Love that. Love that. I can go on and on and on. I have so many other questions, but this is gonna be my last question. I have so many, but thank you for your time. Again, I'm gonna put all of Sumaya's information in the description here. But, redefining life and redefining, do you feel like your journey is a story of reinvention and redefining and, you know, re you know pressing restart multiple times until you get to that space of like, yes, this is what's meant to be, this what feels good to my soul? Would you say that it's kind of like a little bit of what your life story has been about?
Yeah, definitely. But
Yeah.
I don't look at it like there would be a time when I'm like, okay, this is it, the destination. Because I feel like until we die, we're always reinventing and restarting and resetting. So I look at my life as a book, and there are different chapters. And in different chapters, there are moments when I feel like, okay, this is awesome. I achieved something. Like, the moment of bliss, the moment of joy. But happiness and reaching a goal is not like a constant state where this is it. Because then what's the fun of it? Like it's the journey, you know?
Love that. Love that. Love that. Love that. It's about the journey. The story is still being written. And I am so thankful. I have a little toddler in the background. So he just woke up from his nap. But I am so grateful for your time. And what would you say would be the next big goal for you as a wellness expert and as a pro bodybuilder? I know that you have so many amazing courses, you have some online content that we can find on your website, but what do you think is the next, one of the next big well, I can't talk, one of your big goals right now, like on your journey right now?
So, I mean, my bodybuilding career wise, I want to do another show, win like a pro level show and get qualified, compete to go to Arnold Sports Festival, go to Olympia. But I think that's like most IBB pro bodybuilders want to do that. My personal goal, what I really want to do is recreate like what we had in college, like Sisterhood Society, Empowerment kind of group. And I'm at a place in my life where I want to create a community with other women where kind of like a support, and don't know what I'm going to do or how or where. I will figure it out, but I just know that I want to build a community.
I love that. I think community is so important. And I remember in our wellness consultation, you really brought that to the forefront. So when you start your Facebook groups and your things like that, I'm gonna be first in line because community is so important, and you never know how many women are out there who don't have that community. And what we had, like when we met, that was one of the things that really was an anchor for me in my life, is being around you women that were just like so inspiring. And when we did like the retreat, oh my gosh, that was such a pivotal moment in my growth and finding forever friends, like some like you know, people who at the lowest part of my life, that retreat was everything. Not,
Mhm.
it wasn't the lowest part, but it was a very hard time for me. I was, in New York City going through a lot of different things. And then that really was like an anchor for me. So it's really amazing that a lot of what your brand represents is women empowerment, and also being an anchor. Like just reading your content is just very inspiring. But I thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping I can have you back. I already have some topics in mind that I want to talk about. Definitely around the topic of like body image and so many different things that we can just kind of talk on and on and on. But I thank you for your time.
Well, thank you for
And
having me. I'll be back whenever you need me. I'm here.
yay, awesome. And I'll be reposting, resharing anything, all of your content, because you are definitely the one to watch. Thank you for being you, authentically you. And I hope you have a continuously amazing Women's Her Story Month.
Thank you.
Thank you. And this is another episode of Soul Care Conversations.
Take care.